Hello, everyone. Welcome to my web series, TypeScript Journey, a journey into modern web development, CI/CD, and AWS Magic. So, hi, my name is Simon. I have a degree in computer science from York University. I have 10 years experience in web development as a consultant. During that time, I worked on several large-scale finance applications, predominantly in banks. And 2 years ago, I transitioned into the startup world. If you want to know more about me and the previous projects I worked on, you can check out my website, alpacaconsultants.com. So what is this workshop about and why does it exist? So this is a tech workshop which I delivered in Ho Chi Minh back in October. I was asked to do a workshop on any topic I liked. And I picked TypeScript, and I wanted to give some information on my journey in learning and using TypeScript and how it's evolved over the years. I've been using TypeScript for about 4 years now, and during this time, I built several full stack web applications. My journey started with learning React, but then I quickly learned that React is not enough. And if you want to build and deploy applications to the web, it helps to learn CI/CD and these kind of things as well. But it's also comforting that you can do all of this stuff also in TypeScript. So now I'm a big advocate of the TypeScript Everywhere stack, which I'll go into more detail in the next slides. So who is this workshop aimed at? I'd say it's really aimed at anyone who's on the same journey that I've been on, which is maybe you already know React, maybe you already know some other web development framework, but you're interested in learning some CI/CD as well and being able to deploy applications to AWS, and you already have some skills with TypeScript. It's very good to be able to leverage those skills to be able to deploy to AWS. And if you're not keen to learn another language like Terraform, then this is exactly the kind of workshop that's aimed at you, because you can stay in your comfortable TypeScript world using the TypeScript Everywhere stack. If you just want to skip this introduction and go straight to writing code, you can skip to the next video. This video is going to give more information on the TypeScript Everywhere stack in general and the advantages of using it. So what's going to be covered in this series? First, I'm going to explain what I mean by the TypeScript Everywhere stack. Then we're going to have a brief look at the state of TypeScript development, the tools that are available now, the tools that we used to use in the past, and the tools that might be becoming more popular in the future. I'm going to demo a TypeScript monorepo, and then I'm going to demo how to create and deploy front-end and back-end applications. Followed by that will be a suggested activity where I would encourage viewers of this web series to actually use the monorepo and the TypeScript world that I'm bringing you into and try and create something for yourself. Then we're going to have a look at bundling and shipping code, which is a big topic within the TypeScript world because there are many ways to do it. And then we're going to have a quick look at the future of TypeScript development. So what do I mean by the TypeScript Everywhere stack? So as we of course know, you can do your front end in TypeScript. There are many TypeScript frameworks and libraries for developing front-end applications, such as Next.js, React, to name a couple. Of course, backend can be done in TypeScript as well. So Node.js allows you to use things like Express.js, but also if you're going to use TypeScript, there are frameworks like Nest. So yeah, you can do backend development as well. But you can also do CI/CD in TypeScript. And in this web series, we're going to look at using CDK and SST, which are tools which allow you to deploy infrastructure to AWS using TypeScript. So the key takeaway from this is that everything is in TypeScript. So what are the advantages of doing this? So the reason why I like doing things this way, and I'm advocating for using the TypeScript Everywhere stack, is because developers are encouraged to make small incremental improvements without leaving their comfort zone. So what I mean by that is if you already know TypeScript and maybe you're writing a React application, but the backend is also written in TypeScript, then you're more likely, if you see an API that you don't like, you're more likely to actually go and improve that because you can do that without leaving your comfort zone, without having to learn a new framework, without having to learn a new programming language. I've found real examples of this where, for example, I worked on a project with someone who knew how to do Next, and then because the backend was written in Node.js using Apollo Server, which is also in TypeScript, they were able to very quickly transition to becoming very effective in doing backend work as well, because the learning curve, if you already know TypeScript, is much lower. So I figured this really helps with the not my problem thinking, which is I've seen in other projects where maybe a front-end developer doesn't like an API, thinks it's badly written, but is unlikely to change it if it's in a language which they're not familiar with. So I think it encourages through these incremental improvements that everyone is more likely to take ownership of other areas of the application. A big thing is type-safe APIs. I'm not saying that type-safe APIs are only possible if you're using TypeScript everywhere, but it does make things a lot easier. And it's also easier to hire, which should be obvious because if you're just using TypeScript for your front end and back end and CI/CD, then that's really all you're looking for is a experienced TypeScript developer. You're not looking for someone who has experience in TypeScript and Java and Terraform. So that's another clear advantage, which I think is especially important when you're working in the startup world. If you want to start with a small vertical team, which is going to focus on producing one app, you can have 3 maybe very experienced TypeScript developers, and they can all do everything. Now, of course, there are some disadvantages. So sometimes TypeScript is not the right tool. So for example, in AI, you're most likely going to be working with Python. And of course, there are other domains where different languages might be a better fit for purpose. Also, you could make the argument that TypeScript is less secure because ultimately TypeScript is going to be transpiled to JavaScript, and the ability to potentially edit that runtime code because it's not bytecode. You could make an argument that TypeScript is going to be less secure. Also, I'll be the first to admit that TypeScript can be very confusing. So I would say that it's sometimes over-configurable and over-complicated. And I think this is kind of quite common in TypeScript because it's quite unopinionated. So, if you look at like the different build tools that are available and all these kind of like, lint extensions and extensions everywhere, testing frameworks, everything, like it can be, you can basically set it up in any one of 1,000 ways. And because of that, it can get quite complicated. So let's have a look at the TypeScript landscape as I see it right now. So there are some quite generalizations here. You might not agree with everything I'm saying. Also, I've deliberately left some tools and frameworks out because I don't think you can really place them in any category. But in general, I have these categories on the left. So infrastructure as code, package management, front end, API server, API client. And I have on the timeline stuff that is legacy moving all the way into bleeding edge. And these are some of my observations of the tools that I've been using and the tools that I'm seeing are now becoming more popular, and also the tools that I've used professionally. I would say in the banks that I've worked at, it's pretty common to be sort of really around here in this sort of legacy area. Create React app, I would say now is quite legacy because we have better tools for a while already. So Vite, for example, is a much faster way to start a React app in 2023. Mainly like using ClickOps is also a big no-no in my book because we have these infrastructure as code tools. So any tool is better than just configuring it by clicking. let's take that off. Now, I would say that for me personally, in the personal projects that I've created, then I sort of try to be recently sort of around about here, yeah, which is kind of the modern standard. So yeah, using V or Next.js, and then using a package manager like PNPM or Yarn v2, which is much faster than the NPM. And I would say that this is kind of the tools that I'm regularly using now, and that I'm trying to push most of the people on my team to use as well. But then when I was asked to do this workshop, I really thought it was an opportunity for me to kind of throw the book out and see if I were to start a new application today, what type of tools I would be looking into, and what I might use to upgrade my stack myself for a new application today. And that's what we're going to be kind of looking at today, which is the tools, these kind of tools here, which I feel may not necessarily replace, but at least augment some of the tools which are kind of modern standards right now. And then over here, we have what I would consider bleeding edge, which is the sort of stuff that might come next or might not, but is definitely right now very exciting. So I'm excited by this stuff, but I probably wouldn't use it in production today. Some notes about this timeline. I would say that you really kind of want to be sort of around about this modern standard, but it's also bad to be too far in this direction, because yeah, bleeding edge can also be bad, because a lot of the stuff here, it might be untested for production. It also might be a lot of hype, and in the next year something else is going to replace it. It's also worth noting that like everything that everything's going to move this way, right? So anything that's now leading edge in 1 or 2 years will be modern standard or will be gone. Anything that's bleeding edge will in a couple of years will be leading edge / modern standard, or it won't exist anymore. And generally, like the higher you go this way, maybe you'll have more fun, but also I would say you're taking more risk, and usually projects, I would say on this side, have what I would consider a bad bust factor, which basically means it's quite common that they were maybe made by one guy, and if that guy gets hit by a bus, then the project's gone, right? So whereas some of the things over on this area of the chart, they might be older and potentially a bit slower and not have as good developer experience, but they're well established and reliable. So yeah, so now I've kind of given you a lay of the land, and we've looked at the TypeScript Everywhere stack in general. In the next video, we're going to start a demonstration of a project built using the TypeScript Everywhere stack.